Everyone, welcome back. Sideline Brief Podcast, episode 212. We're here to recap the AFC and NFC championship games. We had a doozy of an AFC championship game, but the Rams versus Seahawks proved to be one hell of a game. Plus, we got UFC 324 to recap the first of the Paramount era numbered events, so we'll recap that as well. So with all that being said, stay tuned. Into this championship weekend in the NFL on Sunday. First up, we have the AFC championship game. We got the Broncos, we got the Patriots, 1 versus 2. Although the Broncos didn't have their quarterback, Bo Nix. You guys don't remember, injured his what was his ankle, Jacob? On the second last play.
Broke his ankle, yeah.
Here comes Stidham, Mr. Stidham, playing basically garbage time minutes this season. His first start in a while. What were your thoughts on this one? This was a heavy defensive game. Didn't help that a blizzard came in halfway through the game in the third quarter.
Yeah, that blizzard was crazy. Well, it wasn't as pretty as most Patriots fans would have wished, but here they are back in the Super Bowl. Not long after the Brady era, first year for Mike Vrabel, and they are the AFC representative. I thought it was definitely one of those games where you wish you had a little bit more offense, but, the weather conditions, good defenses. I thought the Broncos played really, really hard, obviously, with the circumstances they were dealt. Defense definitely made some big plays. I think the big early takeaway was Sean Payton not kicking that field goal on that early fourth down when it was 7-0. Could have gone up 10-0. And obviously that was early in the game, but they never scored another point. They only had the 7 points. And that looms large. Congrats to the Patriots, I guess. Easiest run I think I've ever seen in the history of my life watching football. But if they can get through Seattle, then maybe they do deserve to be champions. But definitely one of those games where not a lot of offense. The weather played a factor. Two good defenses. But in the end, it is your New England Patriots.
Patriots back in the Super Bowl. I read a stat somewhere that the past, I think, almost decade is the AFC representative has been either the Pats, the Chiefs, or the Bengals. So that's not a lot of parity going on in AFC.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah,
unfortunately.
And I think the next team, if you were to include, would be the Broncos. So it was going to be 4 teams representing the AFC if we go back like 11 plus years. So crazy to think that the Patriots, after coaching change, bringing Vrabel after, Mayo didn't do so hot. Vrabel brings in, Josh McDaniels as the OC. Drake Maye takes a leap. Although, like you said, Jacob, easiest schedule in, I think, 40-plus years, right, for the Patriots.
Very long time, yeah.
Very, that helped them out a lot. I know a lot of people are saying, hey, they played, 3 top 10 defenses. Well, you can make a case that they really didn't have to play any good quarterbacks. I mean, Bo Nix was hurt. CJ Stroud, come playoff time, honestly, he's, hit or miss. You definitely tell if he doesn't have a decent pocket, he kind of falters under pressure. So not really chalking that up much. And then going against Herbie, who I've said many times, I don't really trust him at all. I don't think he can keep putting him in that top 5, top 6 category anymore. So I don't really have too much good things to say about Herbie. And he was still nursing his broken hand. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to try to diminish the Patriots' run too much because it is still very impressive what Vrabel has done. Let's see if they can get over this last hump.
Yeah, there's no more excuses, hopefully, unless Sam Darnold hurts his oblique again. I mean, they played the Chargers without both of their top tackles. They played CJ Stroud without Nico Collins. Nico Collins, obviously, one of the best, probably 7 to 10 receivers in the game. And then they played the Broncos without their starting quarterback. I truly think that most Patriot fans probably wish that those players played, not only just for the integrity, but also just for the respect, kind of say like, hey, we did beat them at full strength. And, the Texans did have a good defense and we still beat them. But, as a Bills fan, I'm not here for giving them too much credit. So, you know what? They did it. Here we go. But again, it goes back to Seattle. Like, they did lose Charbonnet. but they're going to come into this pretty healthy. I mean, they got all their offensive stars and that defense that's just loaded and flying around, and Rashid Shaheed on special teams that's faster than any human probably alive right now. So this is probably the biggest test of their entire season, and from a football perspective, it should definitely be a good Super Bowl.
Yeah, I'm liking the matchup. Their opponent, the Patriots, they will be facing the Seahawks. They beat the Rams Sunday night, 31-27. Another controversial, I guess, call was going for it, 4th and 4 in the fourth quarter. Matthew Stafford, not completing a pass in the end zone to kind of get the lead in that one. What are your thoughts on the Seahawks? I think, everyone's been saying this morning Darnold's proven a lot of people wrong. I think he has, but I think, hey, there's still one more game. Can he not falter under pressure against this time another really, really good defense?
It's huge. It's so big for Sam Darnold, legacy game. He threw for 350 and 3 touchdowns, didn't turn the ball over once, which is kind of what we were saying. Like, as long as he just plays okay, they should be fine. And he played amazing. And they kind of needed him to be, because both defenses, as good as they both are, weren't the best units on the field. The best units on the field were Sam Darnold and Matthew Stafford leading their offenses up and down. I think Stafford had 350 as well, 375 for Stafford. So, yeah, these boys both were just putting up, a lot of air yards. Shout out to JSN. What an absolute beast he is. That one-handed catch just stuck right in his hand. Puka, what can you more? Puka makes an amazing catch every time he's on a football field. I'm happy for Sam Darnold. I'm happy he's going to get this opportunity. Just do it again, or just do the milk gas station version of this and just put up, 190 yards and 1 touchdown. Just no turnovers. Just take care of the football and rely on your running game, rely on the defense, rely on the special teams. And I really do think the Seattle Seahawks are in a good position to win the Super Bowl, as long as everybody kind of displays their role.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think early favorites for me are the Seahawks. I think they just got to play their game. No one try to be hero. Just play their game plan. I think, going against a second-year quarterback, if you can get pressure on Drake Maye, I think he's prone to making turnovers. And we've seen that in the Texans game where they were just getting after him, and he was turning the ball over just as much as C.J. Stroud. So I think that's probably a similar game plan you're going to see from the Seahawks. And they have more than capable defensive line and linebackers to kind of, bring pressure. But back to this game, I think both quarterbacks played outstanding. Stafford, kept them in the game. Darnold just played his game, no turnovers, keeping the ball safe, getting it to the playmakers. Shout out JSN. We'll talk about this a little bit later, but it's hard to argue that he's not a top 5 receiver now. Him and Puka, you got to put him in the top 5 category right now because they are balling. And like I said, Jacob Puka makes incredible catches. He knows where, knows how to contort his body. Good hands, good hand control, strong hands. There's nothing, you just can't not like Puka. He is a great receiver.
Yep.
Coming off this loss, though, I guess one question remaining is, Stafford is going to play another year. Was this his last, year in Los Angeles? Is he going to maybe become a mercenary for hire? Like, what do you think the next move is for Stafford?
That's actually tricky because I think we may or may not have mentioned before, if Stafford would have won this game, got to the Super Bowl, win Super Bowl, I think everybody would be in agreement, like, hey, go out, man. Like, not a lot of people get the chance to go out on top. Had he had that opportunity to go out on top, I think he takes it. Now that isn't necessarily the destiny, I could see it, probably 55-45. I think he's still good enough to play. The MVP candidate this year, he was awesome. I think it just goes into the whole, do you want to have to do the off-season mini camps and, kind of just go through the entire process. I think the funny thing with Stafford is a lot of people forget, like, coming into the season, he had a serious back issue and we weren't even sure he was going to start the season with the Rams because he was dealing with, a back and, at 38, 37, whatever he is, like, those are pretty serious injuries. And he just kind of shrugged that off and went on to have probably one of the best, statistical seasons of his career, which is, incredibly impressive, but it's also kind of like it just speaks to how good Matthew Stafford is now and always has been. So I truly think, like, as a fan of his and a fan of this game, whatever he wants to do as a fan, I'll respect and be okay with. He wants to come back, sign me up. I'll see him again. If he wants to, call it quits and kind of ride into the sunset, then, I'll be happy and I'll appreciate, what he's done, for the game. But I think it's pretty close, 50-50, 45, 55. But we'll see. It's up to him now. And like I said, either way, whatever he decides, like, I'll be cool with him as a fan, just because of how much he's given us, in the sport.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think it's about 50-50 shot that he either, plays again or retires. I feel like after such a great statistical season, possibly winning MVP as well, I feel like you don't want to hang it up when you feel like you're at your apex. Like, this is one of the best seasons we've seen him put together. Keep taking care of the football, throwing 46 touchdowns, a host of receiving weapons. You got Puka, you got Devontae Adams, you got a couple other guys in there. You got Kyron Williams, you got Blake Corum. I mean, the offense is loaded. So I feel like if Sean McVay wants him back, if ownership wants him back, I'm sure they'll more than willing to kind of up his deal and make the money work so that it entices him to come back. But I don't know. I feel like, the Rams are probably the best situation for him. I know I put it out there about the mercenary for hire, but I don't really see another franchise that will be willing to do as much and go as far as the Rams, because he really turned the Rams around. I mean, they had what's his name on Detroit?
Goff, yeah.
Had Goff all those years. Yeah, they got to the Super Bowl, but he didn't get them over the hump. Here comes Stafford, gets them over the hump, unfortunately, against my Bengals. And then, other than one down year, they've kind of been in contention every single year. So he's done a lot for the franchise. So I think they'll return the favor.
I think something that you said that is a really good point is, look what's around them. They have one of the better O-lines. They have, two top 15 to 20. I mean, Puka, like we just said, he's in that conversation for best in the game. But, like, Devontae Adams is still a guy. Had, 15 touchdowns from, in the red zone this year. Like, if he came back, running game weapons, Corum and Williams, you mentioned, he's in a great situation to where it's like, hey, if you want to come back, you can come in and deal. If you don't come back, then I also think the Rams are in a pretty good situation to kind of say, like, hey, let's just put in a B quality quarterback, and he can probably succeed in this system with McVay and the weapons, both running and receiving. But also the defense is really good and really young as well. So I think Stafford's in a great position to kind of just say, hey, if I'm going to come back, I'm going to go back to the Rams. If he doesn't end up coming back, I think that job that he's held for the last handful of years will be very coveted by other quarterbacks that would say, yeah, I think I'd be pretty good in that offense as well. So definitely something to keep an eye on as we get to the free agency and the draft and everything, because the Rams do have 2 first-round picks. They do have the Falcons pick, which I think is 11 or 12 in that 13 in that range. So the Rams definitely have some assets, and both on the field and in their draft room.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this offseason plays out for the Rams. You get this close, and your franchise quarterback may or may not retire. So yeah, something we got to keep our eyes on here with the Rams. I guess one other piece of NFL news, we got Big Mike McCarthy, now the coach of the Steelers. My bad, getting confused. Big Mike McCarthy going to Pittsburgh. I think he's from Pittsburgh, right? I think that's where the connection is coming from. And they make that hire. I think it was on Sunday they make that hire. I'll let you go first, Jacob. How do you feel about the Steelers choosing McCarthy?
I think it's really funny. And it's kind of in a mean way to Pittsburgh fans. And I love Pittsburgh. I've been to Pittsburgh multiple times. I love that town. It's too lateral for them. They're really, I mean, obviously Pittsburgh Steelers are one of the biggest brands in the NFL. But getting rid of Tomlin was so huge and important to them because of kind of the complacency of like, hey, you're going to go 10-7 and lose in the playoffs. How many teams would want that? I mean, you could have asked Lawrence about his Panthers before the season. Hey, you get to the playoffs and lose, are you cool? Like, a lot of franchises would take that. Imagine the Browns, the Titans. I mean, there's so many teams would take that. But because Pittsburgh basically holds themselves in a higher standard, they don't want to win 10 games and go to the playoffs and then lose. Like, they want Super Bowls there. And granted, a lot of places, kind of like where the Bills are now, the Bills don't want to just get to the playoffs and lose because we think that we're good enough to win a Super Bowl. For the Steelers, regardless of how good their team is, they think that they have to win Super Bowls for them to, kind of validate who they are as the Pittsburgh Steelers. So that all being said, that's why the Mike McCarthy hire is so funny to me. I think Big Mike's a good coach. I mean, obviously won a Super Bowl with the Packers. He went over to Dallas, had 3 straight 12-win seasons, I'm pretty sure. The problem with Big Mike, who is a good coach and a good person, is he kind of has this reputation of getting a good team to the playoffs and then losing in the first round. So the city that has a problem with losing in the playoffs in the first round just hired a guy who has the exact same problem. So I also think that that's why people think it's kind of a lateral move. He's not like a new, young kid on the block like Cowher and like Tomlin were. He's kind of a guy that you've seen and you kind of know what he's going to bring. Like, yeah, he's a good coach. Yeah, he's a typical Pittsburgh guy, and he's going to bring it and he's going to love it. But I know some Pittsburgh fans that were extremely upset, and I truly kind of understand it. That'd kind of be like the Bills, firing Tomlin or firing McDermott and then hiring Tomlin, where it's just like we already had a defensive guy that couldn't get over the hump. Like, I don't want another one. So all in all, I love Big Mike. I think that he's going to really just follow in the Tomlin footsteps of win just enough and then lose when it matters. But, for the sake of content, it's worth it. But for the hired sake, I mean, who knows? Their owner came out and said that they still want to be competitive. But, I mean, me and you know their roster, and I don't think their roster is in any shape to win a Super Bowl in the next couple of years unless they figure some things out both on offense and defense.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. As the AFC North guy here on this show, the Bengals fans and the Ravens fans are clapping right now because although, like you said, we love Big Mike, we love what he's done for the Cowboys and the Packers. This is a very, very lateral move. Like, you bring in Tomlin, you bring in Mike, who for the most part, he'll get you 10, 11 wins. We've seen it with the Cowboys, with some of the rosters that they assembled over there. We've seen it with the Packers year after year after year with Aaron Rodgers and, some of his declining talent and, the lack of them drafting receivers for him and all that good stuff, right? So if the Steelers want consistency, like, they got it. Like, this is just Tomlin all over again. And you kind of hinted at it. This roster's mediocre on both sides. Yeah, you got DK Metcalf, but other than that, who can you say you have on offense? You don't really have a household name, a Pro Bowl type caliber player on offense, and then on defense, yeah, you probably got the better players, but they're all on the decline in terms of age and productivity, right? So unless they think McCarthy's going to work miracles and somehow give some of these players the fountain of youth or whatever on the defensive side and maybe hoping he can, squeeze a little bit more juice out of some of these offensive guys, I think this is a pretty bad move by the Steelers. I mean, I don't see what this accomplished. If you think that, maybe you can squeeze another good year out of Aaron Rodgers, which at this point, maybe you can, maybe you can't. If this is part of that plan as well, I think that's a pretty terrible plan, right? I think you too many times the past 2-3 years they've looked to kind of like recapture moments in some of these older players, and instead of being forward focused and proactive, it's just more reactive moves instead of thinking about the long term, health of the franchise. And I think they're just putting a lot of band-aids on the same problem, and it's they need to get younger, they need to get more talented, and they're just not doing that, man. They're just not doing it. So I feel for the Pittsburgh fans. I really do. They should want another young hot shot on the block who wants to prove their name, but they get a guy that's been there, done that, and he's been there, done that at 10-7, 11-6 every year. Like, I think they deserve a little bit more than that.
The perfect bar right there was a Band-Aid. That's the perfect way to describe it. It was just a Band-Aid. It was basically ripping off a Band-Aid in Mike Tomlin and then getting like a fresher Band-Aid and putting it on. It's like the problem's still there. Like the sore, the cut, the whatever, it's still bleeding. But like we're just gonna use a different brand of Band-Aid to fix it. And it's like it's not gonna fix it. But yeah, that was a good metaphor.
Yeah, and I guess with the QB situation here, Mike McCarthy, he's kind of in the class of the QB whisperer. I'm not too sure that Will Howard is the answer, and Mason Rudolph is more so just a good backup, good quality backup. But if the Aaron Rodgers plans fall through, do you really think he'll be able to shape Will Howard into a quality starting quarterback? Like, is that really what their plan B is?
I'm curious to find out what their actual like plans are because, I like McCarthy. I'm not just doing this just to like talk bad about him. But think about like he had Aaron Rodgers for all this time in Green Bay.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers, whether Mike, developed him into what he is or not, he's one of the greatest ball throwers to ever pick up a football. So, like personally, I think Aaron Rodgers would have figured it out, whichever field, whichever coach he was on. And then when he got to Dallas, Dak was already, considered a good quarterback. So, like I always hear, quarterback whisper with Mike McCarthy, and it's like I don't necessarily know where that comes from. Just because he was with, one of the most talented guys of all time, and kind of inherited a good Dallas offense that had a good quarterback when healthy. That like I'm curious because say that's what they do. Say it's hey, we're gonna get a young guy, even if it was like Malik Willis. It's like I need to see him develop more. Like whatever quarterback plan they have, unless it's Rodgers, if they have Rodgers, that will just infuriate Pittsburgh people even more. But whatever plan they have, I'm curious to see if Mike does have like a legitimate effect on the quarterback's development and production because I've been hearing it a lot, but like that's one of the tricky ones to really tell, the impact that McCarthy's had on those two quarterbacks specifically.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see how their offseason's going to go. They do have a late pick just because of them, making the playoffs and winning the division. So, yeah, they're in a weird spot. You fire your coach, you don't have a good pick, high enough pick to draft a decent first-round quarterback. Maybe Ty Simpson will be there. Who knows? I haven't really checked too many mock drafts as of late, but they are in an interesting predicament here at quarterback if Aaron Rodgers decides to hang it up.
Arguably, you could argue that's the worst position to be in. I mean, it's easy to say for us because we have Joe Burrow and Josh Allen taking snaps for our team. But like, I would so much rather have a bad team with a good young quarterback on the way up, or obviously have a star. But like, they're in that middle ground where like they don't have a future, they don't have a present. If they do try to go for the future, then we're not going to know until next season. And then it's like they're just in that horrible, horrible middle ground where it's like the Titans at least know like Cam Ward could be a guy. Like they can go to sleep and think like we might have a guy. Like the Steelers have no idea if they're going to have a guy. They didn't know that last year. They didn't know that 2 years ago when they had Fields and Russ. Like they've kind of been in that spot where it's like, who's going to lead this team for the next 5 years? Or are we just going to keep going Band-Aid over the quarterback situation as well? Because that's kind of how that's been played the last few years. It's just that's a bad spot to be in as a fan. So I do kind of feel for the Pittsburgh fans as well. But hey, it happens, I guess.
Yeah, unfortunately, it happens. You're right. Unfortunately for Patty the Batty, your boy's getting beat up.
Justin Gaethje happened, unfortunately.
Justin Gaethje happened to him. I'll let you have this one, Jacob. How did you feel about UFC 324, the first of the Paramount era, especially this main event, Gaethje versus Patty? One hell of a fight. I was watching this one edge of my couch. This was just one hell of a fight.
I probably stood up from my chair probably 2, maybe 3 times. I think all the times that Gaethje knocked down Pimblett, which was I think in the first, second, and maybe the fifth.
Yeah.
It's one of those just true nail biters. The anticipation coming into it. Patty's walkout was awesome. Gaethje's was too. I mean, it was just I really felt I'm not a big interim title person, but at the same time, like you kind of felt like this was a little different. First card on the Paramount. I mean, I can even break it down to say like Dana White probably chose these two guys for a reason for this first, card on the new company. And it was brilliant because he put in Gaethje, who's never been in a bad fight ever, versus a guy who's extremely entertaining and has been saying for the last 3 years that, Scousers don't get knocked out. And I think that was the first time that everyone was like, crap, man, he might be right. Like he took an absolute beating, got knocked down constantly. Gaethje was just pouring it on, and Pimblett just kept in there. I mean, Pimblett posed a threat late in that fight, even though that his face was getting absolutely mongled. Absolute slam dunk. That main event was awesome. Justin Gaethje, get him into the Hall of Fame as soon as possible. I love Gaethje. I love that we're able to talk about this because 6 weeks without the UFC was tough, but. And I think just some of the takeaways, the main card was pretty good. Those fights you could just tell were fought with a little bit more caution. You go down to some of the prelims and you had guys just absolutely unleashing. I mean, Krylov got the last second knockout.
Yeah.
Alex Perez had a knockout. I mean, it started off with 4 straight knockouts, which, to a viewer is absolutely amazing. And then it started to slow down a little bit. But, just the Paramount experience, I think that being the first card, it's hard to hold judgments, but there was a little bit heavy on the ads, and we didn't get to see a lot of fighters walk out, and there were definitely some noticeable things that were different, but I'm going to chalk it up to, that was just fight or card number 1, and, we'll get that fixed over time. But overall, I was very happy to be back and watching the UFC, and, what a card and what a kickoff on Paramount Plus.
Yeah, I loved it. I think it was good for them to depart ESPN Plus. ESPN Plus started off a little rocky. I remember the first couple pay-per-views with the tech issues and people having trouble buying the pay-per-view. Actually, I know I was one of those people who couldn't buy a pay-per-view or two because the site crashed or whatever the case is. Didn't have any problems, booting up Paramount Plus and turn this thing on. I love the earlier start times. We kind of talked about this before we started recording, but starting at 9 is, probably the biggest change that I think people will love. Just having the main event start around midnight instead of, you having to hope that you don't fall asleep before 1 o'clock when, that was the prior main event time. I think that's probably the biggest change. Well welcomed. And we got another numbered event next week, so we'll preview that later. But all in all, I feel like it was a pretty decent fight. I think it's a B card overall, probably B plus, depending on how much you want to favor the last fight. I think even Sugar versus Yadong fight was pretty good, especially going to that third round where Sean had to really put his foot on the gas because he was probably going to lose that fight if he didn't come all out in that third round.
Yeah, and that was needed too for O'Malley. That would have been his 3rd straight loss had he dropped it. And he really turned up in the 3rd round. And back in the win column, bantamweight's got a lot of intriguing matchups in 2026.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Jacob, that's the end of the rundown. Anything else we should catch up on before we head on out?
I don't think so. NBA, anything crazy happened there? I think we're just getting into All-Star breaks coming up. I saw today that Matt McClung isn't doing the slam dunk contest, but does anybody watch that anymore? I mean, when I was younger, that used to be the coolest thing, but I haven't watched that in years, so I don't even know if that's worth talking about.
I mean, it was cool watching Mac participate in the dunk contest. He was by far one of the best dunkers in the past 3 years. But I think on social media, Gordon called out Levine and said they should run it back because this is the 10-year anniversary of when they I guess face off the first time.
Run it back. We've been waiting for that since forever. That was the last truly good one I remember. Was those two guys just jumping over everything and putting on a show, because that's what we want it to be. And I feel like just with bench players and G League players doing it, it's like, man, get the stars out there, because that's what people. Mm-hmm. It's All-Star weekend. It's not G League weekend. So I don't know if you get the true high flyers and best dunkers in the league interested, then I'll be right back there. But until then, I don't want to see bench players and guys I've never heard of doing the dunk contest. I'm good on that.
Yeah, 100% agree. Not too much going on in the NBA. A lot of injuries. Giannis is injured. I think Aaron Gordon's injured. Booker's out at least a week. Ant-Man's out. Just a lot of injuries going on right now. Plus, you got players sitting out because possible trades. Ja is sitting out. He might get traded. Zion's whispers of him getting traded. So weird time in the NBA. We're 2 weeks away from the trade deadline. The news is going to start, sprinkling in. So I would say probably Wednesday or Thursday episode this week. We'll probably get into some trade discussions on the episode, but nothing really going on in the NBA. I know MLB hometown team, the Nats, traded away the best player. I don't know if you want to touch upon that before we head out.
It's not even worth it. The Nats are going to be so bad this year. Mackenzie Gore to the Rangers. Good for the Rangers. Nats got 5 prospects back. 4 of the 5 haven't turned 20 yet. So in baseball, that means we won't see them until 2032 probably. So that's another one of those trades where the Rangers definitely got the best player. We'll see how it looks in 5 years, but just the Nats doing their thing and just basically rebuilding another rebuild. So as much as the Steeler fans are begging for a rebuild, I can tell you as a Nationals fan, sometimes that you never get out of it. Sometimes you just stay rebuilding. So Sometimes the grass is greener. Ask the Patriots. Ask the Seahawks from the Pete Carroll era. Sometimes the grass is not greener, and it just stinks on both sides. So it happens.
Is it truly the Nats just have generational cheap ownership? Like this is not going to change until they get new ownership, like until they sell a team.
It's tricky because the guy that spent money in the 2010s has passed away, and his son is now, running the team. But I personally think that the son, yes, is cheaper, but I also think that he is going to be willing to spend money when they're close. And I think the Nats the last 5 years have tried to get close, and they haven't even been able to get close to getting close. So I personally think that if the Nationals are one of those teams where it's like, man, if they're a third baseman and a pitcher away from being like a real team, I think that's when you'll see them spend. But it's like right now the Nationals would have to get, 2 infielders, a catcher, maybe 4 starting pitchers, and an entire bullpen to be competitive. To where it's like we're not going to spend money on that. We're just going to draft and develop and see what we look like in 5 years, I guess. But it is what it is. The Nationals won the World Series in 2019, and then they haven't been to the playoffs since. So it's one of those things where if you would have told me like, hey, if the Bills win the Super Bowl and then they're bad for another 10 years, would you do it? I think we'd both do it. So like the Nationals got their ring, and now they're going to suffer for all of eternity. It sure feels like, but. It happens. It's sports. Not all your teams can be good teams, I guess.
Yeah. Not all your teams can be winners. This is true.
Especially when you're a Washington fan, like the Nats and the Wizards. Yeah, it gets low sometimes.
A lot of losing to go around in Washington. I think all three teams besides the Caps are pretty terrible.
And the Caps aren't even that good this year either. So they're not. DC's not doing too great this year, but that's all right. Like you said, we got nothing football wise this weekend, but we got another UFC numbered event, whatever we're going to end up calling the former pay-per-views, and some college basketball this week, NBA trade stuff's going on. So we got stuff coming up. I know football is kind of going to take its 2-week hiatus, but there'll still be enough going on. I think we have 4 teams left without a head coach, including the Bills. So I'm sure by Wednesday we'll have another hiring or something to talk about.
Yeah, we'll have some things to talk about on Wednesday, including we'll probably start our divisional reviews, see how we did versus what we predicted at the beginning of the year. So that should be fun. But other than that, guys, we're gonna head on out. It's episode 212, the Sideline Brief podcast. We will see you later this week. Peace.